Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Hole in the World, an actual play of the Invisible Sun RPG by Monty Cook Games. I, as always, am your host, Zach, otherwise known as Great Zamino. And as per usual, I am joined by my absolutely wonderful cast members, starting on my left on screen, playing one of our two resident apostates, Gavriel.
Hey, my name is Marcy as usual, still the same name, still the same person, aka Experimental Madness, aka Gavriel Glinsky this afternoon, the resident iconoclast, ardent apostate who hosts a choir, who is, getting really close to getting her life together.
Oh, what's that like?
Don't give her that much credit.
Beneath her on our overlay here, playing our resident weaver, Maurice.
Hello, I'm Bill, aka Ghost Spike on Discord. I'm playing Maurice Webb, the stalwart empath of the Order of Weavers who turns tales into reality. And he just quit his job and is going to go live in a commune and learn some more magic, or at least that's his plan.
Excellent. And on my other side, on the left, playing our second resident apostate, Twig.
Oh, that's me. What's up, y'all? I'm Hopper, aka Phil Deadly, and I will be playing Twig, the mendicant gallant apostate who noms on knowledge.
Excellent. And finally, rounding out all of our craziness with some very sensible Vancian magic, playing Kyrrie.
Hello, my name is Marissa, also known as Critical Kitten around these hallowed digital halls, and I play Kyrrie von Hollingsworth, also known as Kyrrie, first assistant librarian of the Order of the Vance. She is an aromatic stoic who understands the words, Velator of the Order of the Vance, guardian of Zeleska's Grimoire, curator of King Nine's personal library, and recently explorer of the realm of reflection on the reverse side of mirrors.
Excellent.
Mother of Dragons, first of her name.
Yup.
Keep the titles going.
Oh man, it's honestly at one point we're gonna have an entire episode dedicated to Kyrie's titles, and you know what?
The whole episode.
Yeah, I'm looking very much forward to it. And so a lot has been transpiring. Namely that you guys a while back killed a hate cyst. That usually comes with a lot of fanfare and rendering you guys big damn heroes in the realm of Saturnine. However, our two resident apostates managed to turn that on its ear, as you guys said, damn the man. And
Talent!
damn the man, and you decided you were going to resist or rebel against the Deathless Triumvirate, in spite of having done the service to the city. So while the three of you, with everybody except Maurice doing that, Maurice, you were off in Merryweather Hospital in Rive River recovering from this deleterious kind of transformation or metamorphosis that this hate cyst had imposed on you, and had basically transformed one of your arms into a long tentacular, a set of tentacles with suckers and all, and it's currently poking through your fine reed suit. Along the way also, we had some very tense moments. We had, I believe, Twig, you went ahead and began building a home, and not only that, you managed to create what could potentially one day be the implement or the instrument of your destruction, a bullet called Mercy. And while you did that, Fixup, your little awakened shrub friend was helping you build this home around a silver tree that sprouted out of the grave dirt of Dren the Devoured, where you buried him. While that was going on, also, Kyrrie, you made your way to the Vancian campus to visit their infirmary, and Alinea, your mentor slash neighbor, where you discovered that she seemed to be holding back and hiding something from you, which is never a really good look, especially, and what was especially frightening about it was the fact that you realized that she was lying to you, which is usually a hard thing for you to parse. Also, that being said, however, you did find a little bit of solace in collaborating with Gavriel to create a potential base of operations within the ruined expanse, where it is hoping that you guys are hoping to perhaps erect a little bit of resistance to the Deathless Triumvirate. That being said, the other person you garnered attention of, Kyrrie, was King Nine, who asked you to give him the hate cyst piece that you had scoured from the Lunarian Opera House. And you resisted, and you came to an arrangement, or so you thought. Now, at the same time all of this was happening, towards the end, Basil Victorum once again made a appearance to the side of his father, Maurice, after giving him a copy of the war report. Not only that, but Basil actually offered to show you something interesting, which took you to Maurice to the Confederacy of Cloisters, a predominantly a church-centric district within the realm of Satyrine, to the monument of the great war hero General Nehera. And it was there that the dead of Satyrine, many of whom were veterans who had previously moved on from this current stage of their life into stages of being phantoms and revenants and skeletons and all manner of kind of undead or dead life forms, all of them came to pay their respects to the former general. And that's when all of a sudden one of them noticed you and uttered a single word, "Lieutenant?" And that is where we're going to resume. But first, we need a little bit of music. Now, everybody in chat, do me a favor, let us know if there's any problems with our audio, as this is fairly... we've been all having a little bit of tech trouble, but all that aside. Lieutenant? Comes the first voice.
What does this person look like?
It is very much a skeleton wearing a bit of formal decorative military uniform. The voice is that of a woman's, looking, very kind of plaintively, two glowing eyes at the back of this skull, kind of very pinpoints of light looking intensely at you. The voice itself very soft, very kind of formal, but then at the same time, that's when you hear the next voice. Lieutenant? Lieutenant. And that is when Basil's eyes go wide as a large number of this contingent of dead turn their eyes to you, all whispering the same word in surprise. And he begins kind of beginning to try to pull and tug at your elbow as the dead begins surging forward towards you. And there's a bit of a commotion. What do you do?
I'd like to understand their motives. Insight check.
Excellent. Give me an interaction roll. You may, I'm going to say for this, you may actually do me two things. They are all speaking. So you may either choose interaction to see how they're moving towards you, or you may use perception to hear what they're trying to say.
I'm gonna do perception.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's gonna be a pretty flat roll. You will get something on a 6, but anything above that you will get varying degrees of information. So choose however you want to spend Bene and what have you.
So I have a skill to this, and I'll spend a Bene, so I'm adding 2 to the die roll, which is a 5, so that's a 7.
Okay, on a 7, you begin hearing this kind of murmur of people moving towards you. They're all kind of reaching out for you, and they seem to be, all of them, they're bony hands, some of them phantasmic or phantasmal in nature as well. They're all moving forward to you, but you pick several voices out of this crowd of dead. And one of the things that you hear somebody say is, "What happened to them? Are they safe? Are the Pathwalkers safe?" That's the first thing you hear. And I am going to say that the next thing that you hear is, what of the other lieutenants? What of the remainder of the squad? And it's all kind of coming in a jumble, and you are realizing you are beginning to feel Basil pulling very hard on your arm away from what is getting to be a crowd of 12 of these kind of forms all trying to descend on you.
So yeah, Basil's reaching and he's grabbing the tentacle arm, and Maurice finds it's quite easy to shake his grasp from this stronger appendage, and looks at him and says, "This is what you wanted me to see?"
And he looks at you and he says, I assumed that maybe 1 or 2 of them might know who you were or recognize you. I didn't." And as he says this, like, they're on you now, and they are like beginning to pull at you. They're trying to ask you all these questions, and it's starting to become like a commotion.
Yeah, so Maurice is going to perform a weave. Mm-hmm. He's going to weave together speech and strength to just have like a booming, commanding presence.
Mm-hmm.
And he yells, "Halt!"
Okay. I will say, why don't you give me an interaction roll? And again, I think that let's set the base at about a 7, and then anything beyond that, we'll see what happens.
Okay. I've got Vexes in these pools, Mr. DM. I'm going to spend both Bene because I can do that.
Okay.
Right.
Are you going to spend up to 3? Because you can do that.
I only have 2 in my entire pool.
Oh, no. How'd you do?
And that is a 4 all day.
Okay, so 4 and 2, and you spent both Bene.
Oh, yeah, that's 4. That's a 2 on the die.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, no, they're just very insistent. And I think that your voice kind of, I think a couple of them you notice almost kind of stand at attention, but the other ones seem to be insistent. A couple of them seem to have less of their faculties in this state than they normally would, and they are kind of, again, just almost ignoring. It's almost like an instinctual move towards you.
And I get the sense that this could be, risky, a risk of harm. This is a stampede situation, kind of thing.
Exactly. There are, by the way, I will say that you clock a number of other Vizsla and Dead who are looking on at this scene a little bit kind of nonplussed. A lot of them seem to be very kind of alarmed by what's going on. A couple of them seem to be talking amongst one another. Others are just trying very earnestly trying to ignore this scene in front of a very kind of powerful ceremony. So what do you do?
I want to attempt to, the sense I get of this crowd is that they are agitated.
Mm-hmm.
I want to attempt to, if authority won't snap them out of it, to magically change their emotional state.
Okay. How do you want to do that?
I'm sure I can weave this with probably with grace and relationships, I think. They seem to know me. The question is, how many can I affect? And I think that's going to be the limit of my stats here.
Okay.
So I can affect. I can affect a group of 9, which probably won't do that much.
I will say, if you up the effect level on this, or up the level of it, I think you might be able to do that. How much sorcery do you have to spend?
So we'll call the vocal enhancement thing I did. We'll probably call that 2. So I have 11 to spend.
Okay.
3 is the level of the emotional effect. Adding targets would get me up to, I guess, 8 more would be 9. So I could spend a total of 11, and I'll pump sortilege into this.
All right. So you are rolling 2 dice already. I will say, normally I wouldn't allow you to.
Oh no, I need a secret to do that, so I can't do sortilege in this. So that's fine.
Yeah. So roll 2 dice, and you are starting with 11 as your. Oh, actually, you don't. Oh, I'll tell you what. Okay, since you are spending like all of your sorcery.
Hell yeah.
You get to roll 2 dice. That's the start of your venture. If you hit a 17 on both dice, crazy things might happen.
I got an 8 and a 6.
Okay, you hit 17, easy. All of them, what is the state of mind that you are trying to evoke in them?
Oh.
They are there's a desperation to them, like a dangerous thing they need to know, and I want to serenity, not calmness, not an artificial calm, just like I don't know the answer, and that's okay.
Okay. All right. I will say this, like a pall falling over their faces, a lot of those bright burning pinpoints of light at the backs of skulls, those burning eyes in the faces of phantoms, they recede, and they are left more placid, more soothing in luminosity. However, and so all of their panic, it seems to leave them entirely. Serenity, a more profound serenity, could never be had in this circumstance. I will tell you, however, they all begin to turn away from you and move further afield. And that is before one of them, a phantom, that appears very much the way he did in life, reaches out to take your hand. What do you do?
Maurice grabs it with 2 hands. The politician thing.
Yeah. And he begins pulling you towards the center of the crowd. All of the rest of the people that had basically surged forward had basically kind of almost this chaotic energy, but all of them fall back in line to the ranks that they had as part of the crowd. And they return to their position to look on this monument.
So I'm going to say that the way that this weave manifested when Maurice changed his emotional state was like a bunch of spider webs that had caught dew, like if you've seen a spider web in the morning. So it was as if this just kind of like appeared, and they're kind of like golden amber color. So as he takes the hand of this person and is following them, like just kind of hanging bits of kind of amber moisture kind of in the air and beginning to dissipate as he kind of walks through.
Absolutely. It's a very powerful effect. And you feel, strangely enough, a set of eyes watching this transpire. But when you look through the crowd, there's just too many people to make out. Too many of them are actually watching you and this kind of transpire, but at the same time, you feel as though one set of eyes burrows in a little bit more than the others. I am going to turn a card because you cast a very powerful spell.
Hell yeah.
And all right, this is the Untrustworthy Mirror. Illusion, false identity, failure. Can we trust the mirror? Shadow thinking would say yes, but wisdom gained in the actuality suggests otherwise. When you don't look into the mirror, what's the mirror looking at? So, something that appears real is not. It could be someone in disguise, or it might just be that an idea, a fact, or an emotion is actually a deception. Taken broadly, the untrustworthy mirror suggests failure. Okay. Someone significant is actually someone else in disguise. I like this a lot.
I don't.
A great endeavor fails, the mirror virus begins to spread. That's another one that's part of this game narrative. Okay, so.
That.
How about no?
So I will say this. I think that intense feeling that someone is watching you manifests, and you have kind of cast this massive broad web of illusion almost of an illusory feeling over these people, but over the dead, and many of whom, and I will say with a 17 or a 19 really, you have affected the entire crowd, and so many of them are watching with great solemnity the figure of Nahera. And that said, one person's gaze feels a much more intense, something powerful in the crowd.
I'm feeling this externally from the group, the immediate group that was coming at me. This is the larger group of dead and Visley that were witnessing this.
Yeah, there are dozens. And there's just one set of eyes, and you feel it very briefly but very powerfully.
Maurice looks back to Basil.
Basil is kind of taken aback. You have cast this incredibly powerful magical spell, first off, so he has this, there's just numbers of calculations going through his head as this scene is unfolding. And you also notice that I think almost as collateral damage, there is a serenity to this level of thought and calculation. You realize that you probably got Basil with your spell as well, and there is a very placid expression. But that said, that hand of the phantom is pulling you, and you realize it's a gentle tug.
Yeah, Maurice will go with.
Okay. So one of the things that happens is you get pulled into a row of dead and living veterans. And you find everybody turning their gaze to Nahera, who, now that you've gotten a better look at this statue, you realize that the inscription says, "To the great hero of," and there is literally just kind of almost like scratched out in space above it, "The war. We mourn your passing into the pale, but await your return that you may lead us into Providence once again." And the years are scratched out as well by whatever magic has manipulated this monument. And the person that you are looking at, there is a flash of memory. And you have that feeling, same feeling you did when King 9 said, "We've only just begun." And you remember somebody telling you, "We've only just begun. This is just the beginning." And the face of the statue looking down at you with this very congenial, very but somber expression is looking at you in the face. Full color, actual life. And you are looking into the eyes of a very much alive General Nehera in your memory, saying, "Come, Maurice, old boy. We've only just begun, Lieutenant." And just like that, that flash of memory is over. And you realize that it is General Nehera who taught you the secret expansive endeavor. Take one secret hidden knowledge, and this information is yours to do with as you will.
Maurice squeezes the hand of the person who led them here and says, "What's your name?"
And the phantom looks out of this corner of their eyes at you, and you just hear in a whisper, "Private Belina."
"Thank you, Private."
And a curt nod, and that is when, almost like a slow wave, the entire array of dozens of dead and of veterans begins to kneel to pay their final respects. What do you do?
Maurice kneels.
And as you do this, there is a feeling of warmth and certainty as the overflow and the coverage of your spell begins to seep back into you as you feel the pull of the thread winding around you. And you feel something in the air. Something grasping for something that you feel you need to grasp, but the moment you think about it, it tends to elude your thought. It tends to elude your attention, I should say. And after several minutes, at which point, not soon after you kneel, you see Basil kneeling beside you out of respect. Again, I think that Basil spends a little bit more time looking at your face before returning his gaze back to the statue. And after several minutes of silent respect and prayer, just as quickly as they kneeled, many of them rise and they begin to disperse. Phantoms seem to translose and become a part of the vanishment into thin air. The dead slowly file away. Many of the living veterans, some of them with tears on their cheek, leave, dotting eyes with kerchiefs. And that feeling of something powerful watching you flees your senses as well.
Maurice feels Duncan's muzzle kind of come up under his arm where he's resting it. He pets him and looks around and looks for any living veterans that have lingered.
Make me a perception roll. I'm gonna say your target's a 5.
That's 7 all day.
Okay. There is one person that is very clearly kind of sticking around, and it's a very strange person, somebody you've not seen, kind of anybody who's ever looked like this. This person, as your eye travels from their feet, as you kind of rise from your kneeling posture, there is a cane following up the cane up the length of a very nicely tailored suit. You kind of expect to see probably a man or woman very well appointed, but instead your gaze meets the very base of what appears to be a moat in miniature. Traveling up the side of this moat, you see a drawbridge, and in miniature, all of this in miniature, you see large watchtowers, ramparts, floating islands on which there seem to be cannons and fuselages and additional kind of ballistae, all being manned by very tiny figures. And it appears to be that whoever this person is a literal walking fortress. Their entire torso hanging in air, a miniature fortress upon which many soldiers of different kind of varieties appear to be running back and forth and populating it, while there seem to be these glowing coal-like fires of forges from lighting from inside the castle. It is the strangest and most fascinating and intricate thing you have seen, and you realize it is a very powerful changery alteration that's been made to this person.
Maurice approaches.
And you just hear a kind of slow voice echoing, bidding farewell to other veterans, and you see the cane kind of hitching as this person looks to leave, and you hear, "Oh, greetings," and you realize that the voice of this person is actually echoing from a single watch person on the parapet of this fortress.
Maurice focuses in on this small figure as if he's talking directly to this person and says, "It's quite a sight. Are these memorials held often?"
Yes, every week, I should think. A number of us tend to gather or meet anybody who wishes to pay their respects to the good general. This is one of the latest of many trips I've made.
Maurice looks up at the statue and says, "Larger than life, the general."
And you see the watch person kind of crane their neck, and the torso kind of angles as if to give the watchtowers a better view. And, well, quite. I can't say that it's my favorite work of craftsmanship. I think I might have been able to do better. But a fitting monument, no less.
I think I knew him.
The good general? In spirit?
No, I think I knew him well. I didn't remember until now.
And there's a pause. And this person looks to you and says, "Then you're all the better for it. I only knew of the general from reputation, but he was very well thought of by both his men and, I gather, the enemy. I've not heard a single negative word to any facet of the war. What is your name, friend?"
Maurice. Maurice Webb.
A brawn. And the hand that is not on the cane reaches forward to take your hand.
Maurice starts with the tentacle hand and reaches out instead with the left hand.
Yeah, at which point Abron notices this, switches the cane into the other hand and takes your left hand with his. The pleasure to meet a fellow veteran.
I don't want to keep you, but may I talk with you again, maybe next week?
Certainly. I know a number of us continue to show up. I also run a shop if you have any need of items of general sort or any sort of weaponry, armor.
That would be lovely. Where can I find you?
You may find me at a Bronze Assortments and Armaments in Fartown, and that is my office. I tend to run a small stall in the Celestial Bazaar, if you feel so inclined.
And Maurice knows exactly where this is, and with great enthusiasm recommends a local bar where they could meet afterwards.
You don't happen to have a way into Zeros or any idea? I haven't been there in an age.
You know, if I could find it, I could probably get us in. Anything for a fellow traveler, as they say.
Be well, Maurice. Pleasure to meet you.
Likewise, Abron.
And you almost like reflexively, Abron kind of clicks his heels, and the watch person on the parapet bows, and he limps away.
Maurice exhales for like 6 solid seconds and recenters himself and looks to Basil and says, was this in the war report? It seemed to shock you.
He thinks a moment. General Nahera was certainly mentioned. I think that he may have been your commanding officer, perhaps the commanding officer of your compatriots, but the record is not complete.
That's an understatement. Will you come with me back to Kenroy's, or at least for a nightcap?
And there's a pause, as if calculating, and you realize that with this powerful magic crackling around you and beginning to leave your person, that you realize that Basil is trying not to look over eager. And he says, certainly. I'd be happy to join you.
And Maurice leans forward conspiratorially and says, we have many important things to talk about, and many non-important things as well.
And what a pleasure it will be to discuss both. And he hails a cab out into the street, and we're going to leave this scene. So, to determine who goes next, I'm going to turn a card. This card is the Raven of Secrets Raven's Books in Flame. Meanings: jealousy, sight, and trickery. The Raven sees everything and tells nothing. Whose family is this? All right, Twig, we're starting back with you. And we're going to change this music to something a little less somber. Okay. Twig, you have recently received that poem from Maurice. What have you been getting up to in the meantime, and how much time has passed?
I think after Twig receives that from Maurice, I think they're gonna sit on that for a few days.
Mm-hmm.
I would say they feel like they owe it to Fixup to just keep pushing, just keep growing a little bit more before they leave again. And I think there's always the constant fear that every time they leave, they may never return.
Absolutely. I think that, yeah, as you describe for me some of the enhancements that you're making to this empty site, what does this place start to look like as you and Fixup work together to build this place up?
There's, it's a long, slow process, kind of, but it's more just heavy labor. Twig using their powers to move huge slabs of. At first, it's like it's concrete, but there's also shattered chunks of brick and mortar and cinder block and strange petrified wood and steel. It just seems like it's not clear where this debris came from. It just and they just push it to this. They're largely pushing it to the sides of this empty lot, slowly building, so opening up from this debris, opening up the small space in the empty lot and piling it on the sides, creating this tiny oasis of green.
Absolutely. And about how much time do you think transpires between when you have begun working and when you start to notice that there are other municipal crews coming from around the topiary district into lots somewhat further from yours?
I would say it's about a week after Twig starts working.
Absolutely. You begin seeing people leading teams of thought forms, and you realize those leaders are surveyors as they look into the portions of the ruined expanse that they can reclaim. And there are people that almost these kind of leaders, all of which seem to be kind of nodding to you as they kind of almost like move like ships passing in the night. Nobody moves to disturb your lot. All of them, and I think that Fixup at one point looks to you as one of these thought forms is following someone taking very calculated measurements. And you hear Fixup's voice say to you, "Who are they?"
Pilgrims on their own way.
Pilgrims?
People who don't belong here, coming to claim land that doesn't belong to them because they don't know any better.
And as you say that, you feel something, I would say actually you do. That you hear kind of the sound of wood twisting, as if, and you realize that Fixup is kind of scrunching their expression, as if looking at these people very balefully in its way. And you also realize that your emotion, your attitude towards this, is some of it seems to be seeping into Fixup.
Huh. I think that's, you literally get an audible from Twig.
And I will say that as things are kind of changing and moving quickly in that week, it's another day, and I think you're working with Fixup. I'm actually going to pull a card to see something real quick. Let's see how we do here. The Imperator. Visions, swans, blades, and water. Wisdom and war, turning points and deciding factors. Sometimes conflict is needed, and the Imperator believes that keeping a level head and using intellect and wisdom rather than rage or brute force paves the path to victory. Alright, I think that this is very interesting. A crucial turning point, the deciding factor that brings victory or defeat. a crisis point. Okay. So I think as you are working within the garden, one day you realize that the topiary district is still very much a wild place, and without the effects of the Lunarian Opera House and that hate cyst kind of curbing the growth and scouring the land, a lot of that vitality, that very rampant, vivacious vitality, is creeping back into the surrounding areas. And at some point, you see a single thought form being attacked by what appears to be a very large, almost kind of tree-like hound that is ripping into the garments of what appears to be kind of like a municipal work uniform that you realize is very similar to the one belonging to Theray Capthine's crew. What do you do? And I'm going to change the music to this.
I think Twig is tells Fixup to stay there,
Okay.
to stay in the garden, and they will kind of climb over this up onto. I'm basically picturing they've got like 25 or 30 feet. They're like almost clearing a long oblong crater out of this rubble, to further expose this land. They're and they climb over the top of that, and I think they're going to seek to intervene.
Mm-hmm. And as you get closer to this creature, it seems to be almost like a living mass, a hound made of vines and leaves, that's ripping into this thing with very kind of sharpened what you realize are like sharpened twigs for teeth as it's ripping in. I would like you to make me a perception roll as you move to intervene.
Ooh, a roll, you say? I will use I will use a perception, Bene.
Excellent. I need you to beat a 6.
All right.
Or actually, this would be an 8. Pardon me.
An 8? Okay, let me look at my skills real fast. Nothing is helpful. That's a 5.
Okay. On a 5, I'm gonna say you feel like there's something watching what is transpiring. It could be the thought form itself, like looking at you in panic, but it feels like you're being watched by many, many, many eyes. It's really kind of disconcerting, but I think that the pace of this moment is kind of overwhelming as you move to intervene. What do you do?
I think that I would like to use Psychic Missive.
Okay.
To try to speak to this creature.
Okay. I would like you to make me a magic roll, and I believe you're trying to meet 5.
Okay. Yeah, I send a telepathic message through the noosphere to a being within long range. If I spend 1 additional sorcery point, which I will do, I give it the ability to respond.
Okay.
That is 5 on the dice.
Excellent. Okay, as you pause this thing, as you kind of send this psychic missive, what is the message that you are trying to send?
I guess quick clarifying question. How far is this from my space?
I'd say maybe 20, 30 feet? Probably about, I'd say like 30, maybe, it could be anywhere from 30 to 50 feet. I think it's just a fairly short distance.
I think Twig just sends a message. do I have to send words?
You can send a mental image, you can send a thought. What do you want to do?
I think Twig wants to send like the concept, the thought of trespass, and that this thing is under this construct is under my protection, and that but also kind of an offer of shelter.
Okay. I would like you to make an interaction roll, and we'll see how well this thing decides to obey your command.
Can I use sortilege on that?
Absolutely.
All right, because I am not good at this. All right. I don't believe I have any skills that are relevant to this unless horticulture is relevant.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one for horticulture.
Yes. All right, so digital dice is my regular, non-digital is my magic. That is 8 on the regular, 4 on the so 8 plus 1, 9, and 5.
And as you kind of send this mental image, you realize that this thing listens to you and kind of like very cautiously backs away and begins to kind of pace, looking at you like almost like sizing you up. And I am going to invoke a GM shift and mark a point of despair as you watch 2 very large daggers pierce through the top of its cranium and sever the spinal branch leading from its back to its head, as you look up and you meet the gaze of Slipping Jack. Who says,
I hate this guy.
Ooh, thanks so much for the help there, friend. I don't know what I would have done for Ziggy if you hadn't intervened.
Friend's a very strong word.
Oh, but we's friends, ain't we?
I think that's how that works there, Haas.
Oh, is this your place?
and
Yeah.
And there's something you notice as you are kind of having to deal with this interaction. You notice that those 2 daggers that Slipping Jack is using, they move very quick, but when you do see them, they are very beautiful, very well crafted and handmade. And not only that, you notice that when Slipping Jack moves them, it's like they are an extension of his body in both hands.
I guess this makes us neighbors then, doesn't it?
Oh, you know what they say. Fences, heavy artillery, all that.
Oh, come on, you gotta have a little bit of love for Slippin' Jack. I mean, what was it? You liked enough to save my pal here.
Yeah, that's more of a moral obligation type of deal.
Well, Ziggy says thank you, don't you, Ziggy?
And the thought form gets up. It has been kind of gnawed on in places. You realize that uniform that it started out with, which was fairly pristine but poorly fitted, is been worn and torn in places. This thought form has kind of seen hell. And Ziggy looks at you and goes, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah, he's not much of a talker, but when he does talk, you'd wish he'd shut up.
I can intimately imagine that feeling.
So, how's the new digs?
Comfy. Very fertile.
Well, place like this, you'd be better off maybe having somebody watching your back for you. Maybe somebody taking a look who's getting in on your lawn.
And he kind of points to the body that has clearly been, just those daggers made very short work of whatever this creature was. And as if kind of like while you're like pondering what it is, he says,
Oh yeah, odd Skerrick's harm though. They're not supposed to be here.
Where are they supposed to be?
Another son, brother.
Oh. Green?
Yeah, it's strange. Almost sometimes I noticed it. Not too recently, but it seems like things are starting to leak in from the green, as it were.
How awful. That's Twig's just kind of basically trying to figure out how to get the fuck away from this guy. Like without like starting an actual fight. And is just, well, I've got friends watching my lawn, as it were.
And at which point you see just like that, like dagger travel very quickly, looping around his finger, his thumb, as though there is a loop there, and he catches it like right here in this little flourish and says, "Well, that's good to know." And he holsters it in one sheath before pulling the other in a similar fashion and holstering it in a shoulder sheath.
Well, look at the time.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, I'm not gonna monopolize your time then today, but, you know, be fun if you'd ever feel up for tea. Maybe we'd get together.
Yeah, let's get a rain check on that. Got a lot to take care of, you know. Busy things. Got a lot of things cooking, growing.
Oh, I couldn't help but notice. But, you know, I'm sure we'll get a chance to discuss it someday later. But it's good to have you in the neighborhood officially. By the way,
yes.
By the way, I don't think I need to say it at this point, but if that lady Kyrrie ever comes around, you just let her know I'm running. You never saw me.
Yep.
All right, well, Bob's your uncle and all that.
And he begins striding away in that very unusual fashion. What? What you got?
Those are player noises, sorry.
Hey, man.
God. I think Twig is just kind of like every instinct is kind of like set it on fire, set it on fire, set it on fire. But also like Twig's like, I am a responsible individual. I can't just go setting all my problems on fire.
You're a property owner now, man. That's a big deal.
Yeah. I've got a shrub at home waiting for me. And a tiny paper golem.
You know, honestly, it's hard. It's hard nowadays raising a family.
Yeah, I mean the amount of miracle grow you need to bring home. Yeah, I think Twig's just like internally when they go back into their space. How damaged is that body?
Do you mean for the hound? The Scarix hound, as you kind of pull it aside, it's a very neat cut. It's minute. It's all like, I think the thing that you realize, like with some gratitude, is that that cut was so quick and so fine that thing didn't even know it was dead before it hit the ground. Didn't feel any pain. If a creature made of living vines and moss could feel pain.
Poison ivy has entered the chat. I think Twig is going to drag both parts back into their little domain.
Okay. And having this encounter a weekend, how do you spend the rest of your downtime?
I think it's a process of continuing to build, but also I think this made them realize they need to be a little bit quicker on the trigger if, you know, fences don't become enough to keep good neighbors. Then the heavy artillery part comes in. So we have a substantial sum of money that was deposited in accounts for us, you know, without our consent, but okay. I have, so how much ammo can I buy for Fortinbras?
Oh, buddy. Depends on what kind you want. but I imagine a substantial amount.
So like, I'd definitely like to pick up like a lot. Twig wants to practice with this big ol'.
Zach, do you have any shopping music queued up to go?
Yeah, hold on, let me find that. There's one called The Price of Valor. Let's see how that goes.
God. The price of valor. How much does a leaf of valor cost?
Ooh, that's a very good question.
Valor cheese.
Valor cheese.
No, you gotta draw a line in the sand.
Let me go ahead and open the key real quick, and then I will tell you exactly what you can get that for. Okay.
For the valor cheese or the?
Why not?
No, I really actually care about the bullets.
I know. Don't worry. I'm getting you, brother.
All right. So the other thing that Twig wants to, Twig wants to continue working in the space, building, more importantly, building like a living space and another deeper, like I think they're kind of doing this weird combination of excavating rubble, but also building this kind of underground little punk rock hobbit hole.
Awesome. Okay.
Which is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, so punk rock hobbit hole, I think you can definitely do that. You can spend a great deal of money like grabbing home furnishings if you want. But at the same time, I will say for your weapons, let me go ahead and take a look. Let's see if we've got anything. Yeah, I'm going to say for Valor, 60 orbs per leaf. And if you take that to somebody, you can probably make a lot of valorous bullets. How about that?
I don't even know what that means, and I want that. All right. How much money did you guys give us?
2,500 crystal orbs a person.
All right, and so is that 60? If I wanted stuff that made things go on fire, bullets, for instance.
Okay. I am going to, let's say we are going to grab some fire bullets, and we are going to determine basically we are going to I love this. Sorry, I just saw one with a listing for invisible body paint. So we're gonna say that you can go ahead and for every leaf of valorous bullets for a valor you take, you can have that turned into 6 incendiary bullets.
All right. So I'd like, how much does a regular bullet cost though too?
What was it? Regular bullets? I'm gonna say 10 crystal orbs for 6.
10 crystal orbs for 6. All right. So I will buy like, I don't know, 100 bullets.
Okay.
Of regular bullets, and then let me get like.
Are you trying to make me do math, Hopper?
Yes, I am. And then I'll take a sweet little. Let me get 18 incendiary rounds.
Okay.
I think that's I believe is 180.
Yeah, and then 180, and then 150, 330. I'm gonna say since you're buying bulk, 300 crystal orbs for all of this crazy guns and ammo bullshit.
All right, so that puts me down to 2,205.
Woo! All right, you got it.
And how much would it cost to get while we're here? While I'm shopping, Twig has ventured in the city. That, I think the one thing that they're just like kind of like the bourgeois bullshit at King Nine's place that they were really into, those mattresses.
Oh, okay. I am going to say for a literal cumulonimbus cloud mattress, it is going to put you down 300 crystal orbs.
Absolutely. Where else am I going to keep my crystal orbs under?
I'm very sorry to all of our other players who are having to deal with the shopping trip.
This is I love this.
Oh no, you just reminded me of other financial things, so this has been great.
Excellent. All right.
All right. Other than that, I think they're gonna go try to see. Twig wants to see Maurice in the hospital.
Okay. I will go ahead and turn another card.
Oh. Though I should say, the reason why I was buying a bunch of bullets wasn't just to subject our viewers and my fellow players to a shopping trip, but because Twig is going to spend a lot of time shooting Fortinbras specifically, but also the revolver, the blood revolver that they created from using a spell, and is practicing, I don't know, being fancy and gunslingery.
I will tell you this, in respect to the one advancement we talked about, I'm going to treat this as a short-term project.
All right.
Let's go ahead and fill a clock to 12 segments. I would like you to make a roll, an intellect roll, as you try to teach yourself some things.
Alrighty then.
And we'll have a range. Anything over 9 or 10, you'll get more segments. Less, you'll get fewer segments. Go ahead and give me a roll.
This is just a straight intellect?
And you can spend, I'm going to say, let's make it straight, just for the sake of keeping it simple.
That's an 8 on the dice.
Excellent. We're going to fill 3 segments. So you have 9 segments remaining to learn a new little trick.
All right.
I will say, however, you begin learning, you begin kind of trying to add a little bit of style and panache to something you reflexively know from your previous training. I will say that you do level up your skill in ranged light weapons. However, as you are kind of holding it with this kind of your skill being bumped up, you hold your blood revolver and Fortinbras in 2 separate hands, and it makes you think of something. And that's where we're going to stop the short-term project.
Alrighty.
All right, so 9 segments to go there. But yeah, count out all of that crystal orbs. Eventually, the cumulonimbus mattress is delivered. I assume you are putting it on a bed of leaves of some sort.
Yeah, just like random, I think it's like scrap lumber. Pretty much everything in Twig's like little punk rock hobbit hole is just really finely placed bits of debris, concrete, maybe any sort of furniture they can find, but also a lot of small plant roots and things growing through to keep everything tight.
Twait. All right.
Tight.
Excellent. And I think that, yeah, you begin... I will tell you this, having slept rough for almost as long as you've been in the actuality, this first night, the first night that you get to sleep on a cumulonimbus mattress, you probably sleep 12 hours just from how comfortable it is.
God, I want this.
How do I get this in real life?
Yeah, seriously.
Excellent. So I'm going to turn a card. And
A good sleep card?
yeah, no, this one's different. This is actually really interesting. I was pulling to see if when you visited Maurice, whether or not you would get to see Yi Mun. And the card I pulled is the Doctor, which is wisdom, health, dependence on others, disease. So when you do go to Merryweather Hospital, you do not find Maurice, but you find the attending physician who administered to him Yi Mun. And we are going to cut there, and we are going to pick up with our next player. And we're going to stop this Price of Valor stuff. Okay. I'm going to turn another card to see who shows up. All right, the Weeping Priest, the apprentice of Secrets, Ravens, Books, and Flame. We've already had a Raven card, so I'm going to pull another. Notions, Cats, Clocks, and Wind. Who's that?
It's me.
All right, Gavriel. You have begun. You have begun building this HQ. Tell me a little bit about the time that passes. And I'm going to play another card Not play another card. Play another song. Tell me how you spend this month of downtime, or however long downtime you do spend before kind of seeking out anything else.
Building a base of operations, I think anywhere in Citrine would take a lot of effort. Now, Gav's no stranger to setting up shop if she's going to be hunkering down for a bit. But she's never had access to so many futuristic, by her standards, and fancy tools. What she needs is information. She knows her general target, but she can't just go in guns blazing. That would be suicide. I think the name of the game is find all of the allies of the Deathless Triumvirate and take them out one by one, which is going to take a long time. So her base is going to require surveillance, a research facility, and oh my goodness, you just changed.
So it looks like somebody has signed into my Zoom account. Let's see. Am I still off? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay.
You're fine.
Yeah. So,
That was weird.
Yeah, unfortunately, guys, don't do that. Don't do that when you share
No.
Zoom accounts. Okay, so tell me
Anyway, we've said last session that she's been going out, and there's now signs around the city, graffiti and otherwise, with very cryptic phrases along the lines of like "take back your past," your mind, your memory, reclaim who you are, and it's usually accompanied by this symbol of a feather.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you saying that there's clearly been responses to this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first step is she needs a gang. Because in order to, yeah, I've got some money, but something tells me it's not nearly enough for the kinds of things that I want in order to have the kind of security that I need to build this house.
Mm-hmm.
Am I on the right track?
Okay. So, I like this.
I'm leading you somewhere.
I like this instinct, but I am going to also tell you the card that I pulled that got you to play, or got you to your turn. It is the Forbidden Game, which means danger, intellect, strategy, and balance. This temptation to partake in the game is strong, but you know you shouldn't. It's dangerous, it's forbidden, it's far more than it seems. It may appear to be a simple diversion, a pastime, but is so much deeper, so much more engrossing, and so much more addicting. Some have lost their very souls to its intricacies. It's not just that people want to win, although that's a part of it. It's the game's complexities that draw them in. Every move is a colossal undertaking. The game is more intricate than the real world that it simulates. That's the impossible thing. The game is bigger on the inside than on the outside. It's bigger than the world in which it's played. And I think that that's kind of like describing the undertaking of creating this organization.
That's unbelievable. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love this. There is a threat here, but it is one that can be overcome with cleverness and strategy. This cleverness needs to take into account the balance of all involved factors, which can be daunting, as sometimes those factors are difficult to see. And that's exactly where we find ourselves as you kind of are looking to build this network. So with that card pull, I will make it apparent to you what resources you immediately have available. You have your criminal network, or your network of mercenaries in the Undersling is the first thing that comes to mind. The second thing that comes to mind is the fact that you have, however kind of like tangential ties, you still have very much ties to King Nine, who could make a lot of inroads in something like a venture of this sort. At the same time, you do have like that interior part of you that is both Angel and whatever Jakob is. You could see if they have some sort of semblance of resources. You also know that Nikolai not only has the ability to decipher what people want and tell them what they want to hear, or even kind of make them feel a certain way, but he is also a member of the House, the Goetic Hall of Records. So essentially, he is an order, a part of the Order of the Goetics, and that might also be an inroad. Now, I want to see if there's a little bit of insight you can also gather. First off, actually, before I do that, what are you thinking as kind of like, as you survey these resources and you kind of begin the building of your murder board, what are you thinking?
Well, a number of things. For one thing, I'm going to need an outfit so I can do a lot of these things incognito. It's going to need to be something sturdy that can handle some spellfire, bullets, stab wounds, you name it. Like I said, Gav's fought in a war. She's used to some padding and armor. She's mostly a sniper. She wants to get into someplace and get out if it's going to be something in which she's in close contact. So something agile. First step, finding a shop that can get her this.
Okay. So your best bet in... actually, make me an intellect roll.
I can do that.
Yes. And I will say... depending on what you get, the answer will vary, but bare minimum you want 5.
6.
Okay. So on a 6, the very first thing that occurs to you is either Fartown, where all the Vizsla kind of experiment and live in their own kind of cloistered existence inside of Saturnine in like kind of a pocket dimension, or there is probably you could go to the Celestial Bazaar and speak to someone who is a fine armor or weapon crafter.
That's who I want to go to.
Okay.
We're taking no chances with this. Most of my money is probably going to go to this outfit.
Excellent.
Because I have another way of getting more funds.
Excellent. So I am going to turn another card to see which one of these places you go to. All right. Let's see how.
What is it?
This one is the ambassador. Diplomacy, reason, discussion, and intelligence. Okay, because the offering of a broken blade is an overture for peace. Okay. The intellect is superior to brawn and conversation is greater than conflict, but to those who already plan a more direct, confrontational, or even violent approach, this card can be a thorn in their side. An NPC is very smart. One or more combatants in a conflict choose diplomacy over violence. Someone must use intelligence and reason to move forward. Actually. Okay. Yeah, I think that this is I think because this is antithetical to how Gavriel approaches things. The shop that you choose, and as you walk through the Celestial Bazaar, there are, as you kind of walk through these large kind of yawning gates, you notice that there are these very large 6-armed constructs that tend to monitor the gates as people walk through. You realize that this is something that has actually all of the merchants pay for the Celestial Bazaar. Essentially, these are kind of gatekeeper automatons or constructs that are constructed through magic and are able to basically make sure that no thieves pass through the open gates. And I need to look in one book so I don't screw up this shop name. But, okay. There's something about the script of this sign that seems very familiar, but at the same time, the script is far too decorative for you to make out, as though it was woven together and painted and calligraphed by many different hands. And it is with some degree of chagrin that as you walk into this establishment, you realize who it belongs to. You have found yourself in Luster's Firearms and Sundries.
Well.
And yeah, and you see working behind the counter a man with long white sleeves who's all too familiar to you, who appears to be have a set of spectacles and a monocle over that, very much looking at an intricate piece of weaponry, which you realize with some familiarity is a fairly complicated looking rifle, and in one kind of on the side of this large kind of glass display case, and the wall is festooned with guns, padded vests in the shoulder where someone would expect to fire, receive the butt of a rifle, swords of every kind of make, cutlasses. There is not a single square inch of this kind of round shop that is not covered in weaponry. And this kind of like ponytailed, white-haired gentleman with a kind of like long Wyatt Earp style white mustache is looking very intently over his work. And he says, "Can I help you with something?"
I certainly hope so.
And there is a moment when Luster looks up, and there's a kind of a start in the middle of your heart, or your halo rather. And he says, "Well, I'm more than happy to help. What are you looking for?" And as you realize and you remember with great relief that he did not remember a single thing from your event, from your skirmish.
That went well. Yeah, I think Gav takes a step forward. I'm hoping that you might be able to construct a set of armor for me.
Well, I tend to specialize in firearms, but I think a good defense can be a good offense. What are you thinking?
And he claps his hands together, both of which are clad in kind of driving gloves.
Something protective, but mostly something that will conceal my rather obvious appearance.
And he
Lightweight.
he looks at the halo spinning and says, "I see where you might need that." Lightweight.
Yeah, something that won't sacrifice speed for protection. Can you do something like that for me?
I don't see why not. It's funny. There's something very familiar about you.
Like I said, I tend to have one of those appearances.
It's something. It's right at the front of my brain. Oh, you're in the undersling, aren't you?
Sometimes when I need the money.
You're one of Oja's, I believe. Oja Kilindaris.
Yes. Have I fought you before?
No.
Gav says, knowing full well.
He looks at you and says,
No, I don't think we've had the pleasure. I think I'd remember a student of Oja's. Anyhow, just professional courtesy. I wanted to say hello. But anyhow, I am happy to put in a custom order. I have an idea for a material that might suit you just fine.
and he says, "Wait a moment, I'll be right back." And there is a flap, or a kind of a small archway in which he kind of disappears. The front half of him kind of disappears as you hear him rooting through something, and he pulls out a set of material that he looks at it, and as you look at it, it's almost like Vanta black, but you notice in the distant like little twilight stars glittering and glistening within this fabric. And then he says, and he clicks his fingers, and the scene shifts, and it seems to be a kind of pastoral view. And he clicks it again, and this time you see what appears to be like a roiling fire ball of lava rolling down a mountain. And he says, I got this from a Lacunae maker. He wanted to create a material that replicated their abilities somewhat. But what I found, it's actually very helpful for creating a camouflaged appearance. Now, it's not going to render you invisible. But what it will do is, if you know your environment just right, it's going to be hard for somebody to pick you out in a profile. You know what I mean?
That's perfect.
All right, well, I'm going to get working then, and he folds the material up. About when are you hoping to pick up?
When can you have it ready?
And I'm going to turn a card. And the numerical value on the card is 7. 7 days. I don't accept any payment until the object is done.
Oh, man of honor, I respect that.
I do my best. Anyhow, come back in 7 days. I'll have a custom piece for you. If you don't buy it, somebody else will. I'm pretty confident.
I'll buy it. And don't you dare sell it to anybody else.
No hazard there. Under what name will you be picking it up?
Put it under the name Mazikim.
Mazikeen. How do you spell that?
Mazzikim.
All right. Done deal. And he closes a ledger book and says, we'll see you in 7 days.
And she will. And as she's walking out, she looks at one of the nice revolvers. How much for that?
And he looks and says, oh, that one? That's a nice, not a custom piece, but it'll be pretty effective. I'd say it's not kindled, but it'll do a treat. 200 crystal orbs.
Done.
Interesting make and model you got on your back there. And he's pointing at the rifle you have.
It's a classic. Not from around here.
It's gray. I can smell it.
It is.
I'll tell you this. That's a fine piece, I'm sure, in shadow. But you want something effective, you come back and you put in another order.
What do you have?
Depends on what you want. You want a gun that's made out of a demon? I got friends for that. You want a gun that'll bathe your enemy in darkness, blind them where you deliver the final kill? I got that too. You want a bullet that'll shatter somebody's brain before they even think to step foot against you? I got that. What you want, I can build. But make sure it's what you want, because it's gonna be mighty expensive.
Gav runs a hand through her hair and pulls out one blue feather from the multicolored feathers she has. And she just puts it on the table. I think we should stay in touch. I might have a lot of work for you.
I like staying busy. And he puts it into his pocket. And the very next thing he does is he moves to reach for a pipe on the counter. A new pipe that you do not recognize from his previous encounter, because you guys broke that one. And it's fairly ornate and you realize handcrafted. And suddenly another spectral hand from behind his back reaches long and picks up the revolver that you pointed out, flourishes it a couple of times, and twists it in midair to the handle so that it faces you. Not the barrel, the handle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gav reaches out to take it.
All right.
And so she just slides over the money. That's what I was going to say.
Excellent. And he takes a look and says, safe travels, better shooting. And as he reclines with the pipe, the hand from behind his back waves goodbye.
I'm very excited about this development and this new friend that Gav's made. Great. I have another question for you.
Hit me.
In this 7 days time that I'm waiting around, what are some of the banks in this really fine, upstanding city that we've got here? And where are they located?
That is a good question. A lot of banks of the wealthier variety.
Yes, that's specifically what I would love to know.
Oh, the Marquis Quarter.
Oh, thank you.
There's the Marquis Quarter. There are several banks probably located within the Celestial Bazaar for convenience. Just know that probably the wealthiest source of, or the greatest source of wealth in all of the actuality. Actually, make me an intellect roll.
Okay.
And you can use hidden knowledge if you'd like.
I would. I have like 13 of those and I never use them.
Yeah, go ahead and make an intellect roll, add a hidden knowledge, so 2 to your venture, and spend Bene as you need to.
9.
Okay.
9 with the hidden knowledge.
With a 9 with the hidden knowledge, you realize that the greatest source of wealth is the noosphere, which itself resides in the blue sun.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, it doesn't pay to go all the way to the top on your first run. That would be stupid.
Yeah, maybe a little bit stupid, maybe suicidal.
A little
Who's
bit.
to say?
I know. I'm already doing one suicidal thing. I just need to fund my my research project. Let's call it that. I am planning a bank heist.
You may certainly try.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So
How's Kyrrie handling this?
Not well.
I think that like Gav arrives back at the safe house with the new revolver and she's like taking some notes. And Kyrrie, if like you're still hanging around because you have full access to the space, you've heard Gav's plans for what we need. And then she's like, we need a station. We need ample research for you, a space for you. We need an armory. We need transportation. If we're planning on amassing followers, we need safety for all of them. And not to mention surveillance. And by the way, we need to rob a bank.
Rob a bank?
Do you have the money for all of those things?
Well, no, but...
Neither do I.
Well, what about the bank tellers? What about the people who work there?
And if they give us all of the money, they'll be fine.
How about we make the money instead? Like, I could find the formulae for the crystal used in the composite of the crystal orb, and we could manufacture it.
So you would rather counterfeit the money than just steal the money that's already there?
Well, if it's the exact composite as a crystal orb, then materially it's the same. It's not a false. It's just created by us instead of by some Saturnian government.
Let me give you some old world knowledge. Bank have too much money. We need it. Redistribute it.
But that's not.
Yes.
That's not legal.
I never said it was legal. I just said it was efficient.
Okay, but the efficient course of action is not always the best course of action. I feel like we should weigh our options, and I can see if I can acquire some of the material components needed to create crystal.
This does 2 things for us. 1, she tosses the gun over to you. We're going to teach you how to shoot this. 2, it sends a message. There's already people out there that have seen some of our signs, and they are responding positively to it. We take some of this money, we use it for our funds, but we redistribute the rest of it. That says someone's on their side.
I'd like both of you to make a perception roll. Your challenge is 11.
Woo! Oof. I'll use a Bene.
Yeah, I'd like to do that too.
9. 8 on the dice.
Okay.
9 on the dice.
Okay, so that's 10.
Yeah.
All right, so you catch a flicker of movement in your peripheral vision, in what you realize is a part of the ruined expanse. Some distance away from you, as if like looking through the window of this ruined kind of facade or edifice of which you've kind of set up your base of operations.
I immediately pull out my rifle and look through the scope, angling the gun in the direction that I saw this thing fleeing.
Did Kyrrie notice anything?
Oh yeah, absolutely. With a 9, you notice
Yeah.
something.
I
But
think Kyrie's hand is going to go to her sword here.
and how long do you wait?
I'm looking through the scope actively to see if something comes back or is moving, and if I can get a better sighting of it.
Nothing seems to find purchase in this vision of your scope. You noticed something.
Damn it.
You just didn't see it.
This is what I'm talking about. Out here, there are less threats, true, but we need a fully operational fortress.
I don't disagree with you. Logic would say that you're right. But a criminal act?
Kyrrie, we're trying to take down the government. We're already in too deep. You are arguing over the fact that you are fine with the fact that we might overthrow one of the most powerful governments that I at least have tried to comprehend.
Of course.
And you're arguing with me about if we can rob a bank.
Well, I just don't think that it's not like the tellers have done anything wrong.
I don't intend to hurt any of the tellers.
What about
just
the
need-
people in the bank?
We just need to make them think that we will. If they can give us everything that we want, they'll be fine.
Gav, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've never held a gun, let alone shot one.
And that's why step 1 is teaching you how to use it.
Well,
Come around that back. There's a bunch of broken down things. We can start using some of them for target practice.
isn't it going to be loud?
That's why we're in the ruined expanse. Hopefully the only thing out there is ghosts and more of those hate cysts.
All right.
Okay. And so, are you guys going to spend the rest of your time practicing? How do you spend the rest of this downtime? At least within this context.
I think part of it is Gav is going to train Kyrrie in a little bit of gun work. And the bigger question, I almost feel like it's too big for this, but is like amassing, again, that gang, trying to find individuals that would work for Gav in this situation. But I almost think that can't happen until I have this armor.
Okay.
So this operation is going to have to be done with minimal resources.
Okay. Sounds good. I am going to turn a card real quick and then we will go to break. Just to determine if anything special happens. This one's going to land on the Invisible Sun. The Messiah, the defender of Vision, Swans, Blades, and Water. Meanings change, salvation, and familial love. Many fear change, others embrace it eagerly. Often, not always, but often, the former live happy and satisfying situations, while the latter do not. In other words, change is the salvation that not everyone needs. The Messiah is the defender of the Vision's family. She defends by changing the things that threaten or menace. As a defender, the Messiah is particularly concerned with families and the bonds of love that exist there. She brings salvation, but at the cost of changing everything in your existence. Yeah, so I am going to say this. I think not only do you kind of feel this overwhelming sense of purpose, as the gravity of what you intend to attempt begins to feel heavy on your shoulders. But at the same time, that swelling of purpose, that feeling, that there comes with it a certainty that what you are doing is right. And even in this terrifying, ruined expanse, you do manage to find some sense of solace and ease, as though the gravity of what you intend to do overwhelms even this horrifying gloom. And as the scene fades, we are going to take a 10-minute break. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Hole in the World, an actual play of The Invisible Sun by Monty Cook Games. As always, I am your GM, Great Zamino, otherwise known as Zach in Shadow. And I am once again joined by my lovely cast members, starting on my left on screen, playing our new criminal mastermind. We didn't fix the overlay
issues. Oops.
Oh no, guys.
Who are we?
Who knows? But
I'm
anyway,
Kyrrie, you're Maurice.
Give Maurice's introduction though.
Twig's Gav.
We're all the wrong people. Can we do wrong introductions?
absolutely.
I love this.
Wait, who am I?
You're Maurice.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Who am
Okay.
I?
You're Twig.
Okay.
I'm Twig.
Okay. Playing Gavriel.
Are we doing for realsies or for fakesies?
Oh, I kind of want to have fun
hi.
with it, but like you guys are fine.
It's me. It's your girl. It's Marcy, who's having apparently a personality problem right now. AKA, you can find me under Experimental Madness. I am, in fact, playing Gavriel Glinsky and not Maurice. Let's go rob a bank. Let's go do some crimes. Let's commit some felonies. Let's have fun with it.
Always fantastic ideas. I never would ever regret something like that.
Do you want to rob a bank vault?
I'm gonna rewrite that song just for you.
Okay, let me double check. Yep, okay. Almost everybody's back. Playing our resident weaver Maurice.
Hello, I'm Bill, aka Ghost Spike on Discord, and I'm a stalwart empath of the Order of Weavers who turns tales into reality. And yeah, I just had a interesting experience where I found out I'm definitely a war vet.
Excellent. Following that, playing our second resident apostate, Twig.
What's up, y'all? I'm Hopper, they, them, and I can be found at Fail Deadly on the interwebs, and I'm playing your tiny, gardeny disaster child who just keeps making more friends.
And finally playing our sensible Vance, Kyrrie.
Kind of sensible, rational. You know, there's many words that could be used, but hi, I'm Marissa. I'm playing Kyrrie von Hollingsworth, who is the first assistant librarian of the Order of Vance and is done with this nonsense about robbing banks and committing crimes.
You literally want to overthrow the government. And I will mention this every single time you say that.
Ideologies stand against authoritarianism. It's not necessarily the same as breaking the law.
Breaking the law.
It's not necessarily the same. We're going to have a debate about this later.
Can you overthrow authoritarianism?
I think you are breaking several laws by doing that. Let me just double check.
It depends on the law and whether or not it is seen as a capital L law or if it is a law instituted by said authoritarian presence.
Mm-hmm. I'm behind all of this, guys.
Let me get my lawyer on the phone here.
Is it a capital L law?
Or is
let's ask Plato.
Is it a lowercase L law?
Look, if one person here understands the words, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, picking up where we left off, you guys have gotten to scheming within the ruined expanse. However, you do notice that I think Kyrrie, you would have noticed that. I think that actually what we're going to do is we're going to pick up with what is Kyrrie doing after all of this plotting and scheming with her compatriot.
I think at the moment, Kyrrie is sort of splitting her time between the hideout in the ruined expanse and the Vantine campus, because one thing that's kind of suffered during all of this big damn heroes stuff is her own research and the fact that she has to kind of, maintain her status as a Bellator. And if she completely abandons her scholarship, she won't be advanced anymore and they will kick her out for failing. Mm-hmm. So because she doesn't want that, she's been spending probably half her time in the hideout in the ruined expanse and half her time on campus doing some of the research that she put aside when the group came together for the first time.
Mm-hmm. And tell me, for our audience, tell us a little bit about the research that you're working on.
Yeah, so this actually from a, out of game context is one of Kyrrie's character arcs. It's that she wants to discover something new, and the first step in this is she wants to create a new form of magic, and as part and parcel of creating a new spell herself, she really wants to be able to communicate with Zeleska's Grimoire, not necessarily just by using the spell that already exists to communicate with an object, which is a single casting type of case. She wants something where, she doesn't have to say words or cast a specific spell, something that is more long-term, where she can really start to understand the language that Zeleska's Grimoire has as a book. So that's kind of where the focus of her research has been. Obviously, it was a little more nebulous before she met Zaleska's Grimoire and before it came into her possession. But I think getting Zaleska's Grimoire really refined a lot of what her aims were when that happened to her. And so she's been able to use that as kind of a case around which she's building the theoretical architecture of the spell itself.
Okay, excellent. So I think that, describe for me as well, describe for me the Metalex engine. I think just because I think it's we only kind of covered it in our first few episodes. Mm-hmm. I really want kind of like a big kind of mental picture of what this device looks like, what it does. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, for sure. So again, kind of out of character context, the inspiration for the Metalex engine is the analytical engine of Leda Lovelace and Charles Babbage's design, as though it actually came into form. So that's kind of the base on which this image is built. I'd say it kind of looks like a cross between a big pipe organ and like one of those old-timey cash registers, mm-hmm. With lovely gilded like buttons with the letters, distinct letters on them, but that it kind of whirs and emits sounds, whistles, the way you might expect a kind of steampunky looking machine to do. It basically is meant to currently, without going into too much detail, the field exists in academia of computational linguistics. And that's kind of like what Kyrrie was trying to do, but before that ever became a field in academia that was called that in the Grey. So in some ways, the Metalex engine looks like this big steampunk machine, but is in actuality kind of like a proto-computer in how it functions. And in how it functions, it basically takes the building blocks of language, so like phonemes, morphemes, lexemes, syntax, and context, and like jumbles those together to try to create and understand and process language, specifically languages that haven't been articulated before or heard before necessarily. So that's what, and mind you, Kyrrie was working on this in the Grey at Royal College London, or King's College London, sorry. And, there was a form of this machine there, but she basically rebuilt it once she came to Satyrine.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to say that, tell me a little bit between that moment where we ended with Gavriel and you kind of plotting, about how much time passes.
would say definitely a few days. I think Kyrrie probably spent a couple days there with Gav after that scene ended because, as you know, we said she was learning some gun work with Gav. She probably pulled a lot of books, which she actually has a cantrip that can call volumes to her as long as she knows where they are and where they're shelved. So she probably called some theoretical volumes about shooting guns and how guns work and why they work and physics and all of that.
Excellent.
So Gav takes a gun, fires it. Physics.
But why are guns?
No.
Yes, exactly.
But why gun?
Work?
But why?
Yes. Why gun work that way? So that probably took a couple days, I'd imagine. And then, as much as she is not super on board with the idea of robbing a bank, I think she probably went back to the Vancian campus, say like 2 days after that.
Okay. So one thing that is important to note is that the defender of Visions, Swans, Blades, and Water is currently in effect over the Invisible Sun, which basically means as long as it is on the Invisible Sun, you have +1 to all of your actions if you belong to the card, regardless of whether or not you belong to the card's family. If you belong to the same family, I believe you get +2. So remind me, who's Vision, Swans, Blades, and Water? Okay, Maurice. Cool. That is just good for my note. I am going to pull a card to see what transpires in this time since you leave and when you kind of resume your work. Okay. So this card is the cat, the companion of notions, cats, clocks, and wind. Solitude, curiosity, cleverness, and dexterity. Cats see much. They prowl about or simply find a good vantage point and watch and sleep. Should something really catch their eye, however, they move to investigate. Curiosity killed the cat, as the saying goes, and it's true that cats have 9 lives, and thus they can afford a little curiosity. What do you think you notice about, while you're on the Vancian campus? I'd say you've probably been a little bit burned out between kind of doing all of this, actual physical labor and thought work about how gun work, and also having to do your research. Like, where is your headspace here? Where are you, what do you think you notice out of the corner of your eye as you're walking around, either doing your work or just around the campus?
I think the thing that is sort of eating at Kyrrie a little bit more than normal, and of course, as she's processing all of these things, she's really enmeshed in thought and scholarship and theory. But this work with Gav has really started to focus her a little bit more on the practical and what does it look like to have a real skill that is not something that you can just read and rehearse, but is in fact something that you train. And I think that's something like Kyrrie has never really experienced before, is like, how do you get better at something like a skill? And that requires failing a lot. And Kyrrie is not used to failing. So I think that's probably one of the things that that's kind of swirling around in her brain. And I imagine back in her rooms, even, she's handling a gun, just feeling the weight of it for the first time, feeling how it feels in her grip, trying to maximize the amount of time or minimize the amount of time it takes to actually unholster it and point it at someone. And she realizes she's not very good at it.
And yeah, I think there's something that occurs to you as you are playing with this revolver and the cylinder. I think ultimately you just start spinning the bullet cylinder and kind of like flicking it back like Gavriel showed you into place, and then unhinging it, flicking it again. And there's something about the mechanism that's very familiar to you. As the chambers of bullets begin kind of swirling around, you remember that moment when a lock, basically that central lock, popped into Zeleska's grimoire and turned, and as if kind of aligning with the chambers of this interior lock, these symbols lined up within slots of the book. And rather than there being 6 cylinders, there are 8. Each of them representing one of the suns. And there's just something about this, just like that mechanism. And you think about mechanisms and about the work that you did at Royal College London, all of this machinery kind of coming together to transmit a very critical, very fundamental message. And I think that's kind of what's wondering to you, is the communication of the gun and its purpose, the communication of the grimoire's locks and its purpose. Tell me what else. What do you think follows?
I think Kyrrie probably pulls out Zaleska's grimoire at this point. It is omnipresent. She has like a holster for it, and in fact has a spell that's in effect that she checks every day that kind of keeps that holster hidden on her so that people don't see it. But still, the weight is there. Still, she feels it pressed against her side. It is this burden, yes, but it is also to her a living, breathing thing that she just hasn't been able to figure out how to communicate with. And she kind of has these 2 objects in front of her on the desk. One is the gun that Gav gave her with these kind of whirring clockwork mechanisms. And the other is Zeleska's grimoire that has these kind of empty pockets or places where something will go, but one is filled in. The one that she found in King Nine's library and took, or from the trophy room that King Nine had and took from there. And I think, as she's struggling with this, she's gonna cast a spell because communication is on her mind. It's something she's thinking actively about. It's something that's really important to her. And the spell she casts is Buel's 1000th Word, which is the spell that allows her to grant an inanimate object the power of speech. So this is a level 4 spell plus 1 die. With a single word, I grant an inanimate object the power of speech. It speaks with the language of Visley. I can speak with it, but it is not automatically predisposed to help or hinder me. Instead, my past and current treatment of the object affects its reaction to me. Its color is indigo.
And I would like you to take 1 forward to your venture because you've interacted with the book favorably before. Mm-hmm. And just tell me what you got.
Yeah. That's a 7, so 8.
Excellent. Okay, so on an 8, you cast Buel's 1000th Word, and there is a pause, a moment as if spent in reflection. And that is when you hear the kind of deep, sonorous voice of the book once again. You call me.
Yes, it has been a while.
Much has transpired, I can sense.
What is passage of time like for you?
Time is immaterial. My life is that of the word. That time in and of itself is past and yet contemporary and alive. This place, this time is meaningless to me. My day is done.
And yet your day continues. It is ever present. You are the record of something incredibly important. You carry and contain knowledge fundamental to how we do magic here at the Vance. Knowledge that no one here has earned yet.
Well spoken and correct.
I'm not sure how much you perceive as we go along, as I interact with people, as I meet some crazy people and engage in things with them, but I've been trying to work out a way to speak with you that doesn't require this kind of magic, to be able to speak with you in sort of your own language. Have you been aware of that?
I am somewhat aware, but I respond to stimuli, to provocation. That hate cyst you carried,
Yes.
it posed a threat, and so I defended myself.
Did you? Interesting.
You do note one thing. Literally from this interaction, you realize that the Grimoire knows what a hate cyst is.
You used the word hate cyst, our word for that entity.
Yes.
Has Zeleska seen them before?
Zaleska served in the war. She transcribed those words into my heart.
Something occurs to Kyrrie that ultimately Zaleska's grimoire is, as an entity, as an object, a compilation of words that have been transcribed into it. As it says this realization really comes to the surface for her. And she kind of looks at it differently and says, you know, I have been struggling to come up with this language, some way that we could speak that doesn't require incantations. And I've had an idea. You said once that Zeleska struggled too, as I have been struggling to learn how to shoot a gun, to speak with you properly, struggling through my research. You said before that she confided to your pages not just her magic, powerful as that was, but also her heart. I know I haven't earned the right to read you yet, and I would not dare to ask for an exception to your conditions, but would you tell me about a time when Zeleska stumbled? When she doubted herself? When she veered off course?
Place your hand on this, her sigil, and to you, her knowledge will I unfold. But a moment will pass, but no less significant does that make it.
Kyrrie's excited. This has never happened to her before. She places her hand on the sigil.
As you do that, I need you to make a resistance roll. Your target level is 9.
Ooh. Okay. Is there anything I can add to this, Benai-wise?
I would say I think you can probably roll Swordledge unless you have resistance naturally. Do you have any skill level in resistance?
I'm just seeing. I don't think so. So I think I'll just use a Benai of Swordledge.
Excellent. So that said, keep in mind open and let me know if you get flux.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, that's a 9 on one, a 4 on the other.
Okay. So as you realize, as you kind of reach down and touch the lock, that central lock on the book, you realize something surges through you, and you realize that the book is using you as almost like a conduit, like a live wire, as this magical knowledge travels through you. There is something about this that feels very familiar, this sensation, as you are able to kind of fight through this moment where you would have been just in either absolute pain, and you realize that as you are feeling like the sensation of what would have been pain, you are realizing that you are feeling Zaleska's pain, not just like a wound or a physical cut. You are feeling her anguish as she fails. And there is a moment, a flash of something in your vision as you see something that I'm going to pull a card to see what you do see. Because I don't think it's fair for me to predispose this. Lucky coin. Silver and gold. Meanings: good fortune, wealth, freedom, unexpected luck, unstructured. We put a lot of value in objects. We place a lot of importance in presence in our lives. Some people might have a favorite shirt, a trusty handkerchief, or of course, a lucky coin. Armed with a talisman such as this, no harm can befall us, but we only barely understand the truth of such things. The luck they bring, if they work, never comes in an expected form. So, an NPC succeeds, foe succeeds thanks to some unexpected outside force. An NPC foe gains wealth or treasure that significantly aids them.
Wait, it's a lucky coin, but our enemies get the luck?
Well, here's the thing, is this can mean a lot. The divination for this is something good is coming. It's likely nothing one planned on or was expecting, and it can come in many forms: success, money, or the elimination of a problem. The lucky coin is a positive card turn and suggests that the person in question has perhaps less structure weighing upon them than they thought. Fewer strings for the marionette, so to speak. They are more free than they believed, free to act and do as they please. And I think this is a really tough one to do, but I'm gonna try. So the Messiah card in this case, I think that this is Zeleska. The lucky coin. I think this is loss. The loss of something vital and something important. There is a moment as you kind of look in the mind's eye of this book. And it's a scene from the war. As you spoke to the book about the hate cyst, it's the first thing that comes up. And it is Zaleska learning of the death of her protege. And as she receives the news, you feel that shock, that numbness warm over her as a young Vance tells her of the loss of this casualty. And you realize with some interest that the Vance that tells her of the loss is Yadavastra.
Wow.
And Yadavastra, at this point, you realize reading the ranks, Yadavastra is a control. I think probably not a control, actually a magus. So not nearly as powerful. And you realize with some chagrin that also Yadavastra is not disabled. This was prior to her injury. And Zeleska thanks her. Thanks them, pardon me. Bows her head and excuses them. And that is when you see her walk into her commander's tent, which is fairly efficiently organized. There are a pile of notes, a pile of spell diagrams on a makeshift desk. There is a footlocker in which no doubt there are many arcane implements and supplies. And Zeleska turns to the flap, utters a incantation under her breath, sealing the room out from the outer world and removing any possible noise that could escape the tent. And you watch as she soundlessly screams in grief and anger. And as the anger grips her chest, you feel yours tighten in response, in sympathy. And that is when you feel her resolve. No more. No one else. Not a single other Vance. I would rather die before I let another one of my beloved students die for this pointless cause. Or in this pointless conflict, I should say. And you, almost as sharp as an intake of breath, you leave that moment. And you find yourself back in the study, your hand on the lock of the grimoire. And
Kyrrie is floored by this.
And
she's never experienced anything like it.
yeah, as you do that, something turns in the grimoire, like the chambers of a bullet cylinder.
What happened? She asks.
And when you ask that, do you mean, is your intention to ask about the mechanism or to ask about the thing that you saw?
Her intention in that moment is to ask about the mechanism.
At which point you hear the grimoire. We are closer aligned in this moment that we share. I have found a pathway through which we may talk.
Do you mean to say that we have a language?
We have a cipher, the beginning of a decryption, if that is your intention.
Yes. Metaphorical language, allegorical. It operates not by signification, but almost as poetry, by transforming the real life of Zaleska in a symbolic mirror to express feeling.
And as you notice that coordinate, as you notice that kind of coordinated mechanism, you realize that there are additional mechanisms in each of the locks. And with that beginning cipher, that flash, you recognize, I think, one of the symbols. And as you kind of look around, there are multiple symbols in each lock. And you realize that those multiple symbols for each lock are coordinates of some sort.
Interesting. Does she get a sense of whether they are jointly coordinates, or is does she get some sense that each one is a separate coordinate?
Make me an intellect roll.
Sure.
I will say your challenge for this will be a 10.
Ooh, okay.
But if you get mixed result, we'll see.
Yeah, I'll add up NA too. Nope. She knows nothing. She gets a 3. +1 is 4.
With a 4, I would say that it's very exciting, and I think it's like one of those things where it feels like you might need to sleep on it, you might need to work at it a little while longer, or what you could do is do some trial and error and start with one coordinate or like possible permutations and see what you can find out.
Yeah, okay. She'll keep that in view, but I think given that the spell is still active with Zeleska's grimoire, having kind of taken this step, she will kind of turn back to it and ask the other question, which is, what happened to her protege?
The same thing that happens in war. They went to the Pale. They were removed from her wardship.
What was it, Kit, that killed them?
And there is kind of like this swell of a low hum. And as if you realize it's the grimoire expressing its own kind of sad memory. and it says, "The enemy."
What was this Vance's name?
Arroyal.
Royale. Kyrrie
A-
repeats this. Go ahead, spell it out.
Yeah.
I need that anyway.
Arroiall. Arroyal.
Royale. A
And
she or a he or they?
at which point Zeleska was so happy to teach her so many lessons.
Royale. The resolve that Kyrrie felt by way of Zaleska's Grimoire's communication about that failure turning into this strong resolve, I think is carried with her even out of that memory. And in saying this Vance's name, I think she picks up the gun.
As you do that, you notice something peeking out of the Grimoire. It is a page. It seems to be a loose page. And the thing you realize that it is, as you look on the diagrams of it, it is a Vancian spell. It seems to be a beta spell.
You seem to have lost a page.
At which point, there doesn't seem to be a reply from the Grimoire. There's an air of expectancy.
May I take it? And if that continues and if the expectancy continues, then Kyrrie will reach for it.
Absolutely. Just there's a quiet kind of acknowledgement.
Okay, then she will take the page.
Yeah, and this seems to be a encrypted page to some degree, but there are kind of, I think, in your relationship, this kind of contact with the book, you realize that there is, with this new kind of beginnings of deciphering the intention, deciphering the coordinates, that there might be a way to translate this page. And I am going to give you a short-term project. This will have 8 segments. But for now, that's kind of what you get.
Okay, I think Kyrrie takes the page and then, having the gun in her hand, she says, Ariel, one more time, points the gun at the wall and shoots it.
All right. You're doing this in the Vancian campus?
Yeah. She's overcome with, this feeling of, responsibility and, yeah.
At which point you hear, who in Indigo? And you just hear some very angry Cantral starting to walk towards your direction at speed. What do you do?
Oh my god, Kyrrie throws the gun on the bed and puts a pillow over it and then just pretends she's scribbling at her desk.
And yeah, just the door opens. There is a very red-faced, alarmed Control looking around and just says, "What? Who?" Miss von Hollingsworth, do yourself a favor. Stay very safe in here. I think we have a shooter on campus.
Oh,
I knew I
no.
should have removed those bullets.
Oh no. I will be sure to be very vigilant, Kenroy.
Yeah, either that or somebody is using very loud magic, and just the door just, sorry to disturb you, and closes behind.
You might check Gil's room. I know he has some very loud research.
And yeah, at which point we leave this scene. So all of this transpiring, we are going to end, I think, today's session with a little bit more with Maurice. I will say this, however. Twig, when you went to the Merriweather Hospital, the attending physician, Yimun, was there and described, after you kind of introduced yourself, Yimun let you know that Maurice was convalescing at the place of his old mentor, Kenroy, a weaver of some import. That said, I think one thing I do want to resolve, let me go ahead and draw a card. Inevitable cataclysm. Bad luck, endings, inevitability, breaking a relationship. While we fear the cataclysm, it is inevitable. Towers topple, creatures die, everything has an ending. I think that in this case, I think that Yimun, I think at this point, Yimun refers to you, to Kenroy's house, and also asks if she can administer to the wound in your chest.
I mean, it's never healed before. And there's things missing.
Excellent. Okay. At which point she looks and she says, "May I?" And a bird kind of looks as if to take off.
Yes.
And a bird dives straight into your chest from what appears to be this kind of large wheel of radiating from behind her head, on which are perched 9 birds. One of them finds its way into your chest, this large silver angel administering to you. And it's a very disconcerting feeling, and in a minute it comes back, and you are told by the attending physician, "Yes, your heart, it is missing. I may have a means by which you can relocate it." And I am going to say, at which point she adds, "But I would need to have you stay for observation, if that is all right."
For how long?
1 night, maybe 2.
For sure, at the longest.
I am very certain.
I have obligations, but I can stay.
Excellent.
I'm quite curious as to where or who has my heart.
Understandable. And we're going to fade out from this moment, as because you are under observation, you are not at Kenroy's graduation ceremony. So, we're going to pick back up with Maurice. Maurice, this ceremony is small. It is a number of people that have very close ties to Kenroy that you know, but it's a very small ceremony. It's not unlike the ceremony that transpired when you first gained your degree in the Order of Weavers. However, the people that are here are vastly different and more distinct and strange, for all kind of lack of a better word, than you've ever encountered before. And there are a number of people that appear to be human Vizsla, there are Lacunae, there are several Eldebrin who seem to be keeping to themselves, these kind of shapeshifters with inky dark bodies that have varying kind of heads. Some of them are fully bodied shaped, but you can tell that they are of the Elderbryn variety just by virtue of the fact that the shape continues to change. It seems that Kenroy is a very well-liked person within a larger cell of weavers, and I think that Basil has afforded you guys some privacy, has, I think probably has spent a little less time, kind of like is more aloof, just respecting your relationship with Kenroy and how he's not necessarily a part of it. So you have some time to speak to Kenroy before this ceremony.
A quick question, and this is either your answer or Kyrrie's answer. Did she receive the letter? And would she have gone looking in time for this ceremony?
It's a good question. I think she probably would have received the letter. And I guess I'll give this to you, Zach, in terms of timing of like when that scene with Zaleska's Grimoire was relative to Kenroy's ceremony.
It certainly indicated that there was plenty of time that Maurice would be here for quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that your encounter with the Grimoire and this kind of alignment would have happened after this ceremony. So we're gonna jump back.
Yeah, I think Kyrrie would have gone, especially since she didn't have the chance to see Maurice in the hospital. She would have sought him out, having received the letter.
Excellent. And as you are kind of making your way towards this house, and describe for us, Maurice, what Kenroy's abode looks like.
Kenroy's house is down an extremely long driveway, kind of nestled in where the rest of the houses in the area are kind of at what I call street level. It kind of just goes down, and there's a lot of greenery, a lot of sheer cliffs, and once it's there, it's very much like a hacienda, very much like a lot of open spaces, walls with no roofs, and it's like an ashram. And it has this very SoCal ashram vibe.
It is by far the single most interesting part of Lower Taverswood. There is, I think that everybody kind of jokes about how basically Upper Taverswood basically got bored and left, and that's why it's not one of the districts anymore in Saturnine. But this is very vibrant. It's very residential at the same time. In that it seems very well lived, it's quiet, it's very peaceful. It's the perfect place for you to have any kind of tutelage or training, and a place of kind of thought and observation. So very much that kind of hacienda ashram vibe. And Kyrrie, as you're walking up, I think that you hear something off in the distance, as though earth, as though stone is being pulled over earth.
I turn to look in the direction of the noise.
You see, several neighborhoods over, what appears to be just several birds flying overhead. I also have a key question here. Would you have let Gavriel know where you were going?
I probably would have. I assume like Gav knows most of the time that like when Kyrrie's not at the kind of hideout that she's at campus, but as Maurice and her are so close, I think Kyrrie would send her a note that would effectively say, hey, I'm not going to be at the hideout for several days. I'm going to go see Maurice.
Mm-hmm. And knowing that, Gavriel, would you have stayed kind of concerned with everything with regard to your operation, or do you think you would have started making your way over?
Was I invited to the ceremony?
If I recall, the way we left our conversation was that you had work to do, and the less you told me about it, the better.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And so you left with my blessing. And I'm sure I told you my intention at some point where you could find me.
Good. Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you are off plotting your criminal enterprise.
Yeah, depending on if it's been a week, I'm maybe picking up my armor.
Excellent. We will cover that later. Basically, Kyrrie, you hear this noise, but it seems very far off in the distance.
I think she's going to log that she heard this noise, but she's going to continue up the walk.
Okay. And as you continue up the walk, the camera follows over your shoulder, zooms past, and Maurice, you are kind of mingling, kind of staring agog at some of these people. And I'd like you to make me a perception roll.
Sure. We'll just do it flat. It's a 4.
Okay. So as you're kind of like, it's a lot to take in, but there seems to be, with even a 4, you're able to notice that somebody seems to be holding court with Kenroy for a moment. And you realize with some realization that this is probably Kenroy's mentor, as there is this very tall, very lean man, very dark-skinned, tightly cropped cut afro, who is wearing these long, almost ceremonial robes. And he's just looking with what is very clearly pride at Kenroy. And as you are kind of watching this ceremony, kind of like this kind of get-together take place, you just see everybody kind of orbiting around you, orbiting around Kenroy, as he is the man of the hour. But eventually Kenroy does finally kind of break away from the rest of the pack and manages to step aside for a moment, and he goes out to the balcony where you guys split your pipe smoke that one time long ago when you decided to leave the cell. What do you do?
Are you nervous?
Oh, I think I'd be a little more nervous if I wasn't so well surrounded by friends.
I'm very happy for you. I'm also very happy to be here to see it.
The feeling is very mutual, Maurice. I'm so grateful that you are... I'm so grateful that you've come back and that I've had the opportunity to train you, thus much more. Have you given any thought to what sort of aggregate it is you wish to gain access to?
Oh, I mean, we're here to talk about you, not me.
Well, I am gaining the 4th degree. I would be a poor excuse for Avance if I wasn't actually teaching you anything. Or not Avance, poor excuse for a Weaver. Pardon me.
And Maurice looks down for a moment and looks up and says, I need power. I don't yet know what form it would take. And he starts flexing and unflexing his tentacle arm as it becomes flesh-colored and not.
And to what end would you employ this power?
Protection. I feel like I've just been able to understand and talk and counsel and run away. I need A sword or a shield? I'm not sure which.
And to what end would you employ those armaments? He's looking at you very intensely.
Maurice is having trouble keeping his gaze.
There is also something about the color of Kenroy's eyes that change. They kind of align to the color of his mustache, which is kind of a sea foam green. They kind of almost become brighter teal and they kind of flash as they look at you with a very intense, it's a very intense study of you.
I need to release the hold someone has over those I consider dear friends.
And this is a powerful enemy indeed.
Extremely.
Well, and there is a moment where Kenroy sets down the pipe. As you know, I am one and part of the sea. I feel the crush of the wave, the safety of the lighthouse, the tower, on its port. I know the challenge of finding a safe harbor in the middle of a storm, but I know as well the storm, and as if crackling from his hands, you can sense the sound of pealing thunder as electricity dances from fingertip to fingertip. But these are not a sword and a shield. That lies in the heart of the weaver that wields the aggregates. They are our tools to use, and we define their shape. Do you feel them? The threads?
And Maurice flexes his tentacle arm yet again and says, I do. And I would also like to know what it's like to be adored by the sea.
To know, one must teach. But soon, all that I know will be yours. But it is only through the application, the will, and understanding that comes through benefiting someone other than yourself that you
And
learn
that's-
these things.
Isn't that why I left?
Exactly. And that's why I didn't fight for you to leave. I knew that you had to discover this for yourself. And I have taken the liberty of finding you a pupil.
Really? Already?
Someone I think you may already be familiar with. Mac, would you mind stepping in? And he speaks across the room, and you see a young man that you are very familiar with. The same young man that fought to gain access to the secret facilities of Grey Reapers. The same young man that if Gavriel were here would have almost seen turned into dust by Urlosk, the pit fighter. The same person that Marlin was attempting to put towards whatever means Jiren the Devoured had intended for him. And you see this very kind of quiet young man and kind of approached you sheepishly and said, "Oh, Mr. Webb, I'm so glad I got a chance to see you again. Funny coincidence, isn't it?"
And Maurice smiles and begins to reach out with his left hand and then stops and reaches out with the tentacle on it to shake his hand.
And as you do this, there is this feeling of acceptance, of healing and resolution. And you grip Mac's hand, and of course Mac, still being fairly fresh from the gray, almost moves to recoil and then thinks better of it and grasps this tentacle arm firmly and shakes it. And at which point Kenroy seems to have his attention drawn by this tall robed figure. He says, "I have to excuse, I think myself, I think that the action is about to get underway." And this large, tall figure, Maurice, I'd like you to make me another perception roll.
6.
Okay. Which is appropriate as you see Kenroy grasp firmly in a handshake the hand of this robed figure. You overhear him say, "I'm so grateful that you will commend upon me the honor, my lord." At which point, the figure bows his head. And as he bows his head, you see that there are 6 lines, 3 running up each eye. And at which point he claps Kenroy on the back of his hand and says, "It is always my pleasure to revisit the progress of one of my finest pupils, Kenroy. So, let us get this underway." And this figure stands in the middle of this very large ashram and clicks his fingers, which are long and spindly and wrinkled by time, although his face is smooth and uncreased by worry. And as he clicks his fingers, the sound of a bell tone is heard. "I'd like everyone's attention. We are here to celebrate the advancement of our fine friend Kenroy to the degree of 4 within the Order of Weavers, of which all of us, or most of us, are a part. I am grateful to see so many former students here who celebrate not only the advancement of my pupil, but the advancement of our order. To you I am all grateful, as I'm sure is Kenroy." And Kenroy bows his head and just very magnanimously kind of just waves to the people in the room. "Well, Kenroy, do you accept this, the title?" I can find it. "Of Master of the Weft. Do you accept the responsibility of taking on even more aspiring pupils who would know the power of the weave, who would graciously bind together its threads and further the advancement of our order?" And Kenroy, "Yes, I am happy to do just this." "Then display for us such an advancement on your part. Show for us one of these weaves." And Kenroy begins carrying something as if like an invisible ball in his hands. He's moving it rapidly. And I think at this point, Kyrrie, you have entered into the room. You see, I think, a young man and Maurice watching with rapt attention this central figure who is making this very joyful, you realize, motion with his hands as you understand someone's mood from how they're casting their magic. And first, you see the sparks of electricity flying from Kenroy's hands from one to another, forming an electric cat's cradle and swirling in his possession. And then from there, he begins pulling the cradle apart and then begins manipulating his fingers as you realize that he is weaving together the aggregates of thunder and challenge. And using challenge, he begins weaving together an intricate form of ball lightning. And as the weave continues, the sculpture of lightning begins to form. And you realize with some degree of excitement that this is not too far from the time when he basically helped produce Duncan for you. And Duncan, excitedly at your side, you hear Duncan panting and see his tail wagging as he gives little quiet yips of excitement, as you see almost like stretching polygons across a armature and sculpting a life form that basically Kenroy creates a living elemental creature of lightning, and it sits down by Kenroy's side, looks up expectantly at him, and then heals, bows its head, and then dissipates and disperses into electric particles that surround all of the denizens of the cell. And everybody politely golf claps, at which point the central figure then said, "Then, in my power, as the master of this cell, it is with great excitement and gratitude that I name you Master of the Weft, Kenroy." Everybody continues to golf clap. And it's on this moment, as Kenroy looks excitedly back at his protege Maurice and winks after kind of inclining his head towards Duncan. It's on this moment that we will end today's episode. So, it is 7:40 right now, guys. We're probably running a little bit late. Let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and do our wrap up for Joy, Despair, and for Acumen in our own time. In the meantime, guys, let's go ahead and go around and see if anybody's got any shout outs, anything they want to highlight about today's episodes. Marcy, start us off.
Sure. Well, in terms of shout outs, I hope y'all join us Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Flights of Fandom, because we're going to be doing our second episode of Long Shot, which is our Star Wars flight, and things are going to get very exciting. So come geek out with us on that. And that's all I've got for announcements. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Bill, what shout-outs, anything else you got?
Just kind of like, I guess in the spirit of like the stars and wishes aspect, I really enjoyed seeing everyone drive forward to crazy shit they want to do. This felt like a different episode, and I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. And Hopper, what you got?
Also Tuesday.
I'm also on that. So come watch the shenanigans and chicanery in the Star Wars universe, which is amazing. On the Flights of Fandom show specifically. I don't actually really have any shout outs or whatever. This was fun. Everything's terrifying. Nothing is comforting. Everything's, why is the invisible sun like this? Money Cook, why are you like this? That's pretty much all I got, y'all.
And finally, Marissa, what do you got?
Well, not so much a plug, but I guess this is like a Kyrrie's recommended reading corner. If you are at all interested in some of the concepts like that were discussed or that the language with Zeleska's Grimoire is kind of being built around, I highly recommend you check out Walter Benjamin's Theory of Allegory. It is super cool. A lot of what he talks about, there's a book, I think it was like early 1920s, like 23 or 24 or something, called The Origin of German Tragic Drama. There is, of course, a longer German name that I do not know, but that's the English translated name. And that's the first time that he puts forward what he calls the theory of allegory. And so in terms of like Zaleska's Grimoire being able to speak through channeling the experiences of Zaleska to communicate its intention and meaning. Benjamin obviously doesn't talk about that specifically, but it's built around that kind of theoretical architecture. So check him out.
Excellent. And for my own shout outs, guys, a bunch of friends that are currently, I can't remember the timing. I think it's Dragon Con Online is currently going on. So if you got any interest in that sort of thing, definitely go check it out. I know you can get digital tickets and see a lot of cool stuff. Support the organization because it's really great that they're doing this in light of the pandemic and everything. I'm very grateful for all my players for putting up with me basically improvising a lot of stuff out of the wazoo. So thank you for that. And final shout outs. I love Encounter Party, so keep watching and doing that. And I cannot wait to see the next Flights of Fandom, so check that out on Tuesday. It's set in Star Wars universe, and it's using Scum and Villainy as the rule book. Finally, if you guys want to go ahead and watch some more goodness, stick around for the raid. But in the meantime, everybody be safe, have a great end of your weekend, and most importantly, I hope that the invisible sun shines on you all. Thanks so much.